Oh my gosh. I am having a heck of a day. And I have to say, I tried to jump on already once, didn't work. I tried to put my phone on this holder and it popped right off. So I'm not going to lie, I'm praying this doesn't like just fall off and you guys totally lose me. And if that happens, hi Mary, it worked. If that happens, man, the show's just going to keep on going. I'm going to pick up and I'm going to just hold it with my hand. So Mary, I'm praying that we're going to stay put here. I actually told Mary before I jumped on, I'm like, man, I could really use some yoga this morning. I had a heck of a weekend and a heck of a morning. So thankfully you are here. Hopefully your like Zen will help me out, will overcome me. So before I add Mary to this call, I just want to introduce myself for anybody who does not know me. So my name is Lauryn Laszczak. I am a mama to two girls. I live in Michigan and I married my high school sweetheart. We're currently building a real estate business together, and then I also have Meadows Beauty House where I empower women through beauty and business. So it's been quite a ride, lots of conversations with really amazing women, and just to the point where I was like, man, more people have to hear this, which is where Motivational Mondays came from. They're just conversations with some kick-ass business, women business owners who are making it happen. So I'm excited for you to meet Mary today. I go to Bliss Yoga. I love it, love it, love it. And she is the owner. So thankfully she said she would join me here to talk with you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and add her to the conversation. All right, I'm coming for you, Mary. I'm just also hoping this doesn't pop off. Let's see. Let's pray. I need some meditation. Hi!
Hey.
Oh my gosh, what a morning.
I can only see half of myself.
Uh-oh. So keep it, this is actually the flow of the morning. It makes sense. Can you see yourself now?
I'm sideways, but yeah, sort of.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's bizarre. Well, listen, I can see you totally normal, so I'm assuming everybody else can, and we'll just keep it rolling.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what's happening this morning. Can you just like put your like Zen calm on me and like bring me back?
I just lost my earthing. Sure.
All right.
Just
so
breathe. I got some breath.
Yes, I think we both need it. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to anybody that doesn't know you?
So I own Bliss Yoga. It's in Shelby Township. Been in business for about 4.5 years, and I transitioned from working at a hospital for 24 years to that, and it's going great. It's a lot of fun. It's got challenges, but it's definitely worth the journey.
Nice. So I want to say that's a big transition, but maybe to you, you're like, no, it makes perfect sense. Like how did that transition happen for you?
Well, it's actually a respiratory therapist. So with respiratory, it's all about the breath. So it's really a kind of a nice segue from working in a hospital, helping people breathe, to working in a yoga studio. Oh.
Told you it was going to happen. The show goes on.
It's a nice segue from going from working at a hospital helping people breathe to going to a yoga studio helping people breathe. It's not too far different than what I was doing at the hospital, although people were having more difficulty breathing in the hospital than they do at the studio. For the most part, it was a nice transition. Wanted to take a teacher training several years ago. It's been over 10 years since I took my teacher training. I've been doing yoga for almost 20 years. So and my manager actually talked me into it. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I really want to take a teacher training, but I just don't think I'm ready. And she's like, so when do you think you're going to be ready? Like when you're 80, and then you'll be like, well, I'm too old. So she talked me into it, probably regretting it now because I ended up leaving her to open my own studio. But
probably.
Yeah.
She knew what was best.
Yeah. So.
That is so cool. It's funny because I must have gone live in like the wrong group earlier, and I was literally talking to myself for like 5 minutes, and it made me think about, actually, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, before, when Ronnie and I lived in Arizona, before we left, at the time I was an actor, and so and so I was like, instead of bartending while I'm waiting for these acting gigs, it would be really fun to teach yoga. And at the time I had a really great practice, and I loved where I was going, and so I signed up, and I like put the deposit down and everything. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And literally like the week before it started, Ron found out that he was getting into law school in Michigan. And so that was like kind of what brought us back. So I had to like go ahead and cancel that and like take that money to be able to afford to move ourselves all the way across the country to Michigan. And so I never did take a teacher training. And it's just funny. I was thinking about that earlier, like, oh yeah, like how funny, like, I don't know, maybe that was probably 8 years ago or something. I could be wrong, but now to be like here talking with you, it's just such a small world. But I will say for anybody well, first of all, Bliss is over in Shelby Township. What's that market actually called? Is there a name to that market where you're at?
Well, the street is Market Street. It's just, but they're little brick buildings. It's supposed to be like a little town is what it's supposed to look like.
It's super cute.
Yeah.
Well, so basically what would you say, Hall Road and Hayes?
Yeah, it's between Hayes and Shaner, so it's kind of almost halfway in between the two, and it's on the north side of Hall Road. We're actually right to the west side of Costco, so when we look out our window, we're looking at the side of Costco, which is across the street. So,
so I found you guys because when I first moved back to Michigan, I was like, okay, I need to like replace my studio that I loved. And we went to 3 or 4 different places. And your studio was really the first one where I was like, all right, like I dig it. I just felt like it was very calming. The setup of the studio is just really nice. And I just felt like it flowed. It was easy to get to. It just felt like everything was flowing more easily for me to go there and practice.
Sure.
So anybody who might have been wanting to try yoga, but maybe just can't find like, because I feel like, do you feel like this? I talk to a lot of people that are like, yoga's not my thing. They have this is either for me or it is not for me. Do you run into that a lot?
Yeah, I mean, if I had a dime for every time somebody said I can't do yoga because I can't touch my toes, and it's not about touching your toes, you know. And they always say it's the experience of the journey on the way down to touching your toes, but it's really just not about that. Our studio is very westernized, so we don't have Buddhas all over the lobby. We're a very westernized studio. We don't speak in Sanskrit, so I think we're more welcoming to people who are not comfortable diving deeply into a traditional yoga practice.
Sure.
So I think that's where we're different. We're not a big alignment-based studio. We don't adjust people. We're totally hands-off. I've been heard a lot of times by teachers coming around, moving me into poses. And we don't take a medical history of everybody who walks through the door. And so I don't know, like you could have a back injury, you could have a slight rotator tear or something else, and I could finish it off or hurt you more by touching you. So it's all about empowering the student. We consider the student the teacher. We're just there to guide you through the poses to make them your own. So I feel like we're very welcoming. 90% of the people who come to the studio are brand new. They've never done yoga before.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now that you say that, I never even thought about that. Like that you guys don't do adjustments or anything. No. I just thought I was that good at yoga.
And you are. Everybody's good at yoga. It's interesting. I'll have a new student after class come up to me and say, so how did I do? And my question is, I don't know. How do you feel? You know, it's not about perfect poses. It's about feeling good in the poses. It's not about forcing yourself into things that cause injury. It's about being easy in your body. It doesn't mean you can't challenge yourself, but you're not doing it in a way that's going to injure you.
You know, that's like the thing I love most about yoga. So going back to people saying it's either for me or not for me, like for me, I love it because I need it for the mindset portion.
Sure.
Like literally what you just said, it's doing it rather than doing it perfectly. Yes. And like, just for example, this morning, this day, the fact like how my setup is right now, like I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, it's not perfect, but I'm like, hey, like at least I'm doing it, right? Like, and that's what draws me to yoga is that, yeah, it feels good for my body. And when I don't, like when I skip a week, I'm like, oh, I can feel it like in my bones. But more so just for like the mindset, for me to stop thinking and just like be on my mat and focus on that moment. That is so hard for me. So hard.
Sure. And it's hard for everybody. I mean, I always say at the beginning of class when we become quiet and we just start to tune into our breath, that's probably the hardest part of the class, that and the end of the class when we're still. Our bodies don't like to be still. Our minds don't like to be still. We want to be thinking all the time. We want to be doing all the time. So that's the hardest
Yeah.
part, is being quiet and being still. And I wake up every morning and create some stillness in my life by doing the meditation. And I feel like it's been a game changer. When I require it for all of our teacher trainings while they're going through training, that they create a meditation practice, and it kind of just sets the tone for the day. So being still is a
Yeah.
practice. It's not something that comes easy.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, it's funny because I have been waking up earlier every morning and trying to find, first of all, some time when my house isn't awake.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids are sleeping, the husband's sleeping, and I can just like be. And yeah, that makes a huge difference. Like you said, I'm not even meditating, but I might be like holding my cup of coffee and like saying gratitude, or just looking outside, or just kind of having that like stillness of mind. And if I don't do that in the morning, like I did not do today, I find that my whole morning, or the whole rest of the day is like off. Like the
Sure.
same thing with yoga. If I leave yoga in the morning, I'm like, yes, I can like take on the world. And today I missed it, and like look at how crazy my day is going.
Well, and the thing is you with your cup of coffee, just looking at nature, or just breathing, is meditation. And meditation just is paying attention on purpose. So whether it's to the breath or to your cup of coffee and just enjoying that moment of peace, it is a form of meditation, and it does help set a tone for your day.
God, it really does. And literally before we jumped on this call, I was telling Mary how insane my weekend was and how I feel this morning. And I was like, can you like do some Zen practice with me on this call to like bring me back? Like, and I guess my question is like, if you can't get to a studio, because I do like getting to the studio. I feel
Sure.
like being in the environment is a huge difference. Like for me to
Mhm.
do a class with you compared to doing it, in with a video online at my house, like it's not the same. Lost you
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Um, and so, what do you do if you can't? If you can't get into a studio, like what can you do at your own house?
Well, first of all, I mean, the studio does make a huge difference. I don't like to practice at home too much myself. I like to go to the studio and take classes myself. But if you can't do it, just like we said, just even being still, just setting a tone for your day each day, just becoming quiet. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes or half hour or an hour. It can be 3, 4 minutes, whatever you have. And we are going online with Bliss, so we are going to be offering online classes, and you'll be able to take different time. You can do like a 20-minute class or a 15-minute class, or you can do an hour class. So you don't need a whole hour carved out of your day to do a yoga class. So we'll be offering that to people who maybe have kids and are not able to get a sitter all the time, to come to class, or for whatever reason they have.
Mm-hmm.
But just paying attention to your day on purpose, just allowing yourself to tune in, and whatever comes up, everything comes up, I believe, for a reason. And
Yeah.
I think our whole life is one big video game of, roadblocks, and how to maneuver our way around things, and how we react when we do that. And so
Yes.
um yeah, I think doing a little bit. I'm going to have some breathing techniques on our new online training, or our online thing as well. So that'll be something else that people can just do. Just breathe, get on and breathe, and learn different breathing techniques that will help
Yeah.
alleviate stress.
Can you speak to like how you kind of mentioned it briefly, like sort of the westernization of yoga, or like
Mm-hmm.
how your studio does it? Because that's something else that I really love about Bliss, is that it's not, I mean, there are days when I want that yoga zen music and I
Sure.
dig it, but there's also days where I'm like in an energy class, and when I'm going through my flow, you guys, the whole song is Taylor Swift, and I'm like, hell yes, Taylor,
Yeah,
like bring it
sure.
home, Taylor. Like I really enjoy that about the studio. Like what's like the thought process behind that?
I just I like music myself, and I'll pop in different little yoga songs during my classes and stuff. But for the most part, we try to stay very westernized, just because it's comfortable, it's familiar. So people like familiarity, and just bringing familiarity of music that's westernized into class makes them feel like it's something that they can connect with. Maybe Eastern music and speaking in Sanskrit or a different language might not feel as comfortable to people as a Taylor Swift song, So it just
Right.
brings more familiarity into the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it works. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm like kind of listening to the lyrics and participating. Like I feel like it almost distracts me in a sense that I'm more in the moment as opposed to thinking like, okay, when I'm done with this class, I have to go home and get my laundry done and do this live. And like, oh, like for me, that's why the class itself is so important, because it's like between going to yoga and going to church, those are the only two things that I do where someone cannot get to me.
Sure.
Like as owning two businesses, it's like I'm either always getting a phone call, always getting a message, especially for my husband and I, like to be in a spot for 1 hour where it's like nobody can connect.
Yeah.
Like that to me is the most important part.
Yeah, that's why sometimes it's disturbing. I mean, we try to keep cell phones out of the studio, but people bring them in, and I just always have a hard time, like how we years ago we didn't have cell phones. We could leave the house and not have a cell phone. My husband and I went for a walk yesterday, and he forgot a cell phone at home, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, should I go back?" I'm like, "No, no, it's just we're going for a walk." Like we didn't used to have cell phones. Yeah, and but they have a hard time even for that 1 hour. Sometimes people just disconnecting. They have to have that security of their cell phone, even if it's not turned on next to their mat. And sometimes it just disturbs me. Like you can't go for 1 hour, just 1 hour without a cell phone, you know? So.
Well, and that's where I think like when I have done that, like left my phone on accident, it's like the biggest like breath of fresh air. And I did that unconsciously. Whereas like with yoga, that's the one thing I do on purpose that I'm like, no one can like kind of enter my zone. Like this is just the 1 hour I get for myself. That's it.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times I'll say in class, like I said yesterday, I think in class, be here on this mat now. Sometimes we're here on that mat, but we're really not there on that mat. We're at home making dinner. We're thinking about what's next to come. We're not really that present for that hour. So that's the practice, is staying present. It's not really so much about the poses as it is about the breath and presence. And if you're present, when you move through the poses, you're not going to hurt yourself. But when you're not present and you're thinking about other things and you're moving through poses and you're trying to copy other people, that's really when injury happens. So it's most important during the practice to stay present.
That right there, that's what I love about it so much, because for me, I am constantly thinking about, I will literally be on that mat and be like, I should post about this when I leave.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's not the point of this,
Yeah.
So I will say too, I don't remember whose class it was, and I don't remember if it was you or maybe Jennifer, but I was in a class and I was having a particularly rough week, and I remember you guys saying something about a pose. I want to say that we were in what's the pose when your legs, okay, well, first of all, this is gonna be hilarious so you guys can see that I'm all dressed up on top, but I have my yoga pants on. What's the pose called? Why can't I think of the name? Where you're squatted and your arms are up.
I can't see. I can only see half of you because because my thing's sideways. I see like this tiny.
Considering my setup is all messed up today, let's just like totally get real.
Is it goddess pose?
So where you're in, so
goddess?
you can't see my legs.
No, is it goddess pose?
No, it's so like.
Chair pose.
Chair pose. God,
okay.
Thank you.
I feel like it's like 21 questions. I can like literally see like an inch of you on my screen, and I can see an inch of me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's like you're sideways, and I see an inch, and I see an inch of myself.
Well, this is gonna be the most hilarious live ever, because you can see an inch of me. My phone went off. My phone fell. But see, I feel like this is all happening today with you on purpose, because it is the point, right? Like,
sure.
Presence.
And sometimes you just gotta laugh at it, whatever. Like it is what it is. So what about the chair pose? What was said about the chair pose?
Chair pose. I remember I was in chair pose. I was having a particularly hard week, and I want to say it was you, said something like, something along the lines of like, it's not about this pose. It's about, or you know what it was? It was, you were saying like, okay, now sink deeper, and like to the point where you want to stop. And right before you want to stop, that's like the perfection point, or something like that's the good stuff. And I just remember thinking like, oh my God, like this was meant for me this week, because it was like, especially with a business, and there's going to be so many women business owners watching, you do get to the point of uncomfortable,
Sure.
and you're like right on the brink of like something great happening, but you're so uncomfortable that you just want to stop. Like you just want to
Sure.
give up, start something new, like just forget about it. And I remember being in that pose, and you were like, so this is the point where you're going to want to stop, but you don't stop. You actually just bend deeper. Like that was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, they say like yoga, when you get into the pose and you get to the point where you want to get out is when the practice really starts, because that's really, yoga is just a metaphor for life. You know, we get out off our mats and into our world, and all these little things, roadblocks pop up in our lives, and it's how do we react to them? Do we stop breathing? Do we hold our breath? Do we get frustrated? Or do we stop and just breathe and slow down and pay attention? And so that's really, I mean, the practice is really just about how to live our life off that mat. And so, yeah, so when you get to that point where you want to stop in the pose, that's really when the real practice starts. How do you react when you're in that place?
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. And I literally have been reminding myself that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like even, you know, business with your kids, with like family situations, like there's just so much of that like rings true. And I can always tell in my body, in my mental state, like when I haven't been to see you in a while, I can always tell.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You know, and I always tell people you lose it very quickly, but it's hard to get it back. It takes time when you've been away
Yeah,
from it for a while. Yeah.
it does. And you know, and it's like, I say this even like not about yoga. The first place you notice it is in your body. Like when something is off, the first place that you notice is in your body. You either get
Sure.
sick, you get sore, and it's like it takes that much longer to recoup. And I can tell that with yoga.
Sure. You know, we talk about in class, we'll talk about tension, you know, and a lot of times at the beginning of class, I bring awareness to tension. You know, how are you feeling in your body? Do you feel, go to the places where you feel tense or uncomfortable or anxious? And I go, maybe that's not external, maybe that's internal. But in reality, if it's internal, it will eventually make its way external, and it will come
Yeah.
out in a way of illness or something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you, I think that's a good, sort of a good transition. We were talking about that workshop that you have coming up.
Sure, yeah, we're having a workshop, and I think we're going to go with the name changes. It's still in the works. It's for fall. And one of our instructors, she is a social worker, and it's going to be for people who are going through major life changes, whether it's a death or illness or a divorce or whatever it is. And it's going to be on Sunday nights because, well, first of all, it's changes because it's September, and we figure September is a time of change. And then it's going to be on Sunday nights because Sunday nights tend to be a time when people are going through something big that can be depressing, especially if you have a job where you have to go back to work on Monday.
The Sunday blues.
The Sunday blues. So, and when you're going through something like that, a big life event, it becomes magnified that much more. So it'll be an evening on Sunday evenings, and she's going to take you through a yoga class, and then it will be a support group after, maybe like a 15-minute just support group. You don't have to say what's going on unless you want to share. It will be like either we haven't ironed it out yet, but either a 4 or 6 week program. So yeah, that's something I know there's several people in the studio that have gone through or going through things. So I think it will be a great support group. And just knowing that you're not alone, you're not the only one going through things, even though we know that deep down. And they always say, misery loves company, but it's true. Misery does love company. Not that you want other people to be miserable, but you want to know that you're not the only one going through it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And sometimes it's not even when you're in a bad place that you want to you want to be with people that are similar. It's also when you're in a good place.
Sure.
Like I think it's nice to know when you go to a yoga studio, it's like, well, people there, you have that in common at least,
sure.
right?
For sure.
But also,
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sometimes in class, I'll even say that instead of focusing on the bad, let's just take this moment to focus on one good thing today. We focus on all the bad so much, but we rarely focus on the good. So let's just, pay attention to one good thing that feels great, either in your life or about how you're feeling today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And that kind of makes me think, even how you have that book club, which I keep saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But Lord knows I could barely get through the stack of 20 business books I have.
Yeah, it's
But I
hard for
think
me
that's
too.
cool.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
Okay, I'm not the only one.
I mostly read nonfiction, so the only time I read fiction is for the book club, and so
Okay.
that's why we do it every other month because I need my time to get through my books that I need to read. But it is a really great way to get just into the community and meet other people. It's not yoga based. We don't do any yoga there. We drink wine and eat popcorn, and have fun. It's just very relaxed. So it's a great way for everybody to get together and get to know one
Yeah.
another. And we've got a really good group going there, so it's
Yeah.
fun.
Well, that just made me think like you really are at the studio creating quite a community,
Sure.
and that's like almost like a huge responsibility, sort of aside from the fact that you're running a business.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like that at all? Like, oh, I'm also trying to like tend to a tribe or a
For
community.
sure. I mean, I think more than anything, that's my number one goal is to create a community where people can get to know each other and become friends. We're having bingo come up this month. We're having a bingo to where people can win prizes and
Nice.
stuff. So we have a board and everybody's putting their bingo cards on the board with their name on it and stuff. And one of the bingo things that you can get for your little sticker is introduce somebody that you've never met before that's new in the class. So that you get
Hmm.
to, because that's really important. That I remember my first time I walked into a studio. Yoga can be intimidating, and I will never
Mhm.
forget my first day and where I come from. The same with teacher training. I always tell my teachers in training, I will never forget being a student, my first day of teacher training. I know how intimidating it can be, and I don't want you to feel that way. So we try to make people feel
Mhm.
really comfortable when they come to the studio. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable. That's why I tell them, I'll be like, 80 to 90% of the people who come here have never been here before. So you're not alone. Everybody's experienced this, and just have
Yeah.
fun. It's not just more than anything, have fun and just breathe. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Just breathe.
yeah, just breathe.
And then the other thing I was thinking before we jumped on this call that you just reminded me of, because I know there's going to be women watching who are either doing the same or have ambitions of doing the same, is the fact that you run a brick and mortar. Like
Sure.
that's a big deal. I feel like, especially for someone building things from home, where a part of me is like, well, at least I don't have that overhead, like
Yeah.
how do you process that, and how do you feel? I don't know, any words of wisdom for me or watching other people on here who are doing the same?
Maybe it was really good that I was just so naive. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I don't know.
That's anything.
Sometimes, being oblivious to what's to come is a good thing. Not seeing the whole picture. So, but yeah, it was definitely scary at first. Still, at times, it's summertime in yoga, and summer in yoga, it's always quieter in the summertime. So things get a little hectic in the summer times. You still have the bills to pay, even though everybody's on vacation. And
Yeah.
but just basically living one moment at a time, not looking at the big picture. Like I don't look at, oh, whatever it's good to look ahead and plan ahead to an extent, but sometimes you just need to move one moment at a time. Just what's next, instead of the whole picture, because the whole picture can become pretty overwhelming when you're new to a business. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just to build out everything we, picking all the stuff for the studio and trying to envision what it would look like. And so it can be a lot. I definitely think a support group. I did have somebody who owned a yoga studio who mentored me, and I think that helped a lot with, just
Yeah.
getting it going. But
Yeah, you know what? I feel like there's going to be a lot of women watching too who are my Senna sisters, we call them, with the beauty business. So,
yeah,
other women that have the similar business. And I can say the same, anybody really who does retail, like summer is slow.
sure.
And if I based my business off of like just these months, I would just stop.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And it's like this is our fourth, we've been there 4.5 years, and it's, I can see the waves and the heights and the lulls of the business. So I kind of know what to expect now when you're new. The first summer is like, oh my gosh, I'm going down, but you just don't
Yeah.
realize until you actually see the flows of the business,
Yeah.
how it goes. And it goes the same way every year. And every year it gets a little bit better, but it still has that same flow pattern to it.
Yeah.
January is a January boost and then things get great, and
Sure.
so just,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I think what you just said is really important. Like, okay, you're looking at it and the ebbs and flows over 4 years. And,
sure.
there's a lot of, I know people for sure that's like, it's hard to make it past the first year. It's hard to
Yeah,
make it to the, like, I kind of felt like I just want to do something where I can, like, feel like I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to
sure.
quit. because you can't see that progress.
Right. And I mean, just my passion for yoga has kept me going. Like, I mean, yeah, it'd be easy, especially in those first couple of years to say, oh God, you know, plus I had a 5-year lease. So that kept me going. But,
You're stuck.
but yeah, it's, you know, just really hard at first, you know, just keep going, but you have to keep creating, you know, keep doing new things. A lot of trainings, you know, I have a lot of business support groups that are yoga related. And I think that helps, just talking to other people who own businesses, especially in the yoga world or any other thing, you know, but it does help to have support.
Yeah. I do you ever think of, I'm going to ask you this because I have, it's really cool. Tomorrow we have this Sunapalooza happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like in a totally different group, and it's basically a whole day of like videos and lives, and people can buy or just watch. It's just a bunch of fun stuff, which a lot of my customers who are going to be watching this are in there. Thank you guys. But I'm actually doing a live, like just totally random, like just kind of one of the fun things. And I'm going to do it about positive affirmations. Because that's something that I do a lot. And actually before, I didn't really realize I was doing it or there was a name for it. Like, I just feel like it's just positive talk. It's not really that like woo-woo
Sure.
to me.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just made me think of you. Like, do you use any positive affirmations, or do you like implement that in your yoga practice at all?
I do, you know, I try not to. Some of the trainings and teachers, our studios I went to where I taught, we had to do intentions, set an intention for your practice. And I would just get irritated with that. Like, I don't want to set an intention. I just want to do my practice and see what comes out. So I try not to, as far as in my classes, our studios really, we try not to have themes to our classes. I feel like themes can be a little fake at times. When you're trying to come up with a theme every time you're teaching a class, I don't feel that it's real, or it can become
not organic.
Yeah, no. And if I have, no offense to any 20-year-olds, but if I had a 20-year-old try to tell me how I should be living my life, sometimes you almost take offense to that because they haven't had the life experiences I've had. I've been through a divorce, I've opened a business, I've had lots of things, had children. So I feel like, you know, just experiencing the practice yourself, that's part of your life experience. I don't think you need to be told how to live your life. Can't tell you how to live your life. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out my own life, you know, so I don't think I'm the one. But as far as being positive, I think with meditation each morning, just setting an intention for your day is really good. You know, just a positive affirmation for your day, or yeah. And I follow so many people on Instagram, and there's always affirmations all day long I'm seeing on, you know, coming by. And so yeah, I
guess then that kind of makes me think, like, if in my morning, if I sit and kind of say my gratitude or affirmations, really there doesn't have to be a name for it. Like I was just saying, I kind of sit in silence sometimes. Like, I don't even think of that equating to like meditation.
Yeah. And I mean, gratitude, that's one of the things in teacher training that we do is, you know, it doesn't have to be sitting in silence, focusing on the breath. It can be keep a gratitude journal, 5 things you're grateful for. Write that down every day. That can be your meditation, you know. So there's all forms of meditation or mindfulness.
Yeah, that's true. Awesome. Well, listen, I definitely feel better after this. Maybe we should do this every morning.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, if you'd ever decide on that teacher training, you got one of those coming up too.
No, but seriously, I think like my kids were sick all weekend, and it's just all the attitude in this house was big and bold. We got girls.
Yeah, part of our teacher training is energy. We talk about energy, and as a teacher, bringing energy into the room, and how we're all made of energy. And when things start to snowball out of, you know, control, it just can get worse. So it's really about controlling your energy and trying to reel it in a little bit so where it's not all scattered and all over the place.
Isn't that amazing how it happens? Like I feel like it's like they say, like, you get out of bed in the morning, you stub your toe, the rest of the day, it's just like negative.
And if you keep telling yourself, like, I'm having a horrible day, well, that's what you're putting out there. Of course you are.
Right. Of course the rest of your day is like total crap.
So you got to change that.
That's how I felt like my morning has been, but until this moment. So now I feel like, okay, like, re-centered. So thank you for doing that for me. So before I leave you, I always ask everybody if you know you could sit down and write a letter to yourself and like magically send it back to yourself, you know, maybe prior to starting this business or yourself in your 20s, wherever you needed to send it to. What would you say to that girl?
Honestly, I'd say don't change anything. You know, just enjoy the journey. Don't change anything. Like I said, I've been through a divorce. My parents have passed away. I've had a lot of, things go on in my life, and I don't regret anything, and I just feel like live life with no regrets, enjoy the journey, you know, that's it.
What it's all
Don't
about.
change it all because it's all for a reason. Life,
That's awesome.
life's a school, and we're just here to learn and grow.
God, that's so true. So true. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Aw, Mary, I'm so thankful that you popped on here, and I'm sure everybody's going to love it. And if you guys want to find Mary, why don't you tell them where they can find you at?
On Facebook, we're at Bliss Yoga LLC, and we're also on Bliss by Yoga. On Bliss by Yoga, I do under stories. I do a little bit of tidbits of my own life, so you can see my home, my dogs, all different kinds of things. But we do yoga stuff on there as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
And when are you guys going live with like the online
It'll
classes?
probably be mid to end of September, and you can find us on blissyoga.us for our studio, and you can sign up for classes there. We offer 2 weeks of yoga unlimited for $14, so it's a pretty cheap deal for 2 weeks. And yeah,
Awesome.
it will be on our website where you'll click a link. It would be a monthly charge, and you can take as
That's
many
gonna be
classes as you
great.
want. Yeah, yeah,
That's gonna be so
sure.
good. I would have done that this morning.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well, thank you. And
sure.
everybody who watched today, the craziness unfold and the Zen take place, thank you for watching with us today. And if you feel like you know anybody who might need this or needs to find Mary, needs a new yoga studio, please go ahead and share this or tag somebody. We would love for you guys to do that. So thank you guys, and thank you, Mary. I really, really appreciate your time, and I'll see you back at the studio.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Lauren.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.